Broadcaster Alan Jones and One Nation's Pauline Hanson will be joining Nationals MP Barnaby Joyce at a community engagement forum in Tamworth tonight, informing voters in Joyce's electorate of New England why they should vote no to the Indigenous Voice to Parliament referendum. For more, we're now joined by Barnaby Joyce from Tamworth. Welcome to you.
Well, you're welcome, Kirsten. You missed out one other too. Gary Johns, who's the former Labor Party minister, will also be speaking at the forum. And, you know, I welcome the forum. Recognise another way, Warren Mundine's one of the bosses of that, Indigenous
Terrific.
man. Bob Liddell, another Indigenous man.
Well, let's get into it because we must point out to our viewers that it is one of the no campaigns. It isn't the entirety of the no campaign against The Voice. The one that you are involved with is called Recognise a Better Way. Tell us, what is your solution to improving the lives of First Nations people in Australia?
Well, the first thing is we have to look at the circumstances in which people find themselves, regardless of their colour. I don't think when you go to Alice Springs you say, well, the reason it's like this is because of the colour of their skin. You'd say it's the circumstances in which they find themselves in. And inserting a racial clause into our Constitution, I think, goes against where the Constitution should be. It should be blind to colour, religion, race, creed, and inserting a racial clause, I think, is taking the Constitution backwards, not forwards.
A huge amount of community consultation, a huge amount of community consultation and engagement went into creating The Voice. How much engagement has the Recognise a Better Way campaign carried out?
Well, we've had huge amounts of community consultation before with ATSIC, the National Aboriginal Congress, the Aboriginal Consultative Committee. We've had iteration after iteration of this, and I respect that, but over time they become replaced by the next iteration and probably an upgraded model. If you put it in the Constitution, you can't upgrade it. That's it. That's where it stays, and that's what you're stuck with. And so I don't think that in the dynamic situation of the progression of Indigenous people, a static move into the Constitution is the way to deal with it. Also, remember, Article 1 of the Human Rights, on the rights in the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights says that all people are born with equal rights and equal dignity. Now, if you put in a clause that says there are people with different rights, then you're going against one of the fundamental principles that we're trying to espouse globally, not just in Australia, but globally, that everybody's born with the same rights.
Barnaby Joyce, I know you told us that Warren Mundine is involved with this campaign, but how much engagement has the Recognise a Better Way campaign carried out with First Nations people?
Look, the majority of the people who are paramount within the Recognise a Better Way are Indigenous. Are you saying to the Indigenous people they don't know their own people? I mean, of course they do. And they have a different view to The Voice, and they're entitled to a different view, and people are entitled to hear the reasons why, and I'm giving some good reasons of that right now, and saying you should address the issues and the circumstances of which you find people, regardless of the colour of their skin. Because, you know, if someone is doing it tough in one house, and the person, because of the circumstances of education, health, law and order, the person in the house next door is probably dealing with the same issues. But to say, oh, well, we're going to have a group that recognises the concerns of one but not of the other by reason of race, I don't think that's anathema. Also, what I would say is you're going to have massive confusions once you have, and even the Labor Party have tried to wind this back, with the reference to the executive. Even the Attorney General has had removed the suggested amendment that he put up to try and bring some limitations on that, because you've got the Governor General, the Governor of the Reserve Bank, you've got the Cabinet, which selects High Court judges. This is going to make things incredibly difficult, especially when it's not an elected committee, so they can't unelect them. It's a selected committee.
It has been made clear that the government isn't obliged to take on any recommendations from The Voice. Well, it is to inform. But Barnaby Joyce, you have been in Parliament for a long time. Is any policy perfect? And are you worried that now that there does appear to be momentum for change to achieve real progress and outcomes for First Nations people, that a no vote will delay that progress?
That's an opinion. No, that's an opinion. You said it'll create real progress. I mean, I hope everything we do in Parliament does. But our experience of this before is that another layer of bureaucracy doesn't. And this is a layer of bureaucracy that we could legislate, but it's actually going to be in the Constitution. And once it's there, it stays there. And unless you want to have another referendum to try and remove it. So if it doesn't work, you're stuck with it.
Now,
and
just
I
finally,
think it'd be much smarter to legislate it, see how it goes, and also, what is the voice? Do you know what the voice is? Have you seen the legislation tabled yet? But you're going to go to a referendum and vote for something you haven't seen.